Coming up on 5 Minute News. Donald Trump takes the stand in New York civil fraud case. UK Home Secretary to restrict use of tents by the homeless. And Palestinian death toll passes 10,000 in 4 weeks of war with Israel. It's Monday, November 6. I'm Anthony Davis. The disgraced former President Donald Trump began testifying today in his civil fraud trial, producing the spectacle of a former president and the leading Republican presidential candidate defending himself against allegations that he dramatically inflated his net worth. Trump's turn on the witness stand in a case that cuts to the heart of the business brand he spent decades crafting amounts to a remarkable convergence of his legal troubles and his political ventures at a time when he also faces criminal indictments while vying to reclaim the White House in 2024. The testimony gives him the opportunity to try and use the witness stand as a campaign platform, but it's under oath format before a judge who's already fined him for incendiary comments outside of court also invites clear peril for a businessman and candidate famous for his freewheeling rhetorical style and lies. Trump walked slowly to the witness stand, tugging at his jacket as he settled in for hours of questions in a lawsuit by the New York State Attorney General that accuses him and his company of inflating his property values and deceiving banks and insurers in the pursuit of business deals and loans. Though Trump early on answered questions in a matter-of-fact manner, his tensions with State Supreme Court Judge Arthur Engoron, who last month fined him $10,000 for violating a gag order, were evident. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden trails Donald Trump in 5 of the 6 most important battleground states, a year before the U.S. election, polls released on Sunday showed. Additional findings from the New York Times and Siena College polls released today showed that if Trump were to be convicted in criminal charges against him, some of his support in some swing states would erode by about 6%, enough potentially to decide the election. Britain's far-right Interior Minister Suella Braverman said on Saturday she would propose new laws to limit the use of tents by homeless people, saying many of them see it as a lifestyle choice. In a post on Twitter, Braverman, who is seen as a possible future leader of the governing Conservative Party, said the state would always support those who are genuinely homeless, but we cannot allow our streets to be taken over by rows of tents occupied by people, many of them from abroad, living on the streets as a lifestyle choice, she said. Braverman argued that unless the government acted, British cities would go the way of places in the US, like San Francisco and Los Angeles, where weak policies have led to an explosion of crime, drug-taking, and squalor. She said there were options for people who did not want to be sleeping rough, and the government was working with local government to increase support. She was criticised by the opposition Labour Party's deputy leader, who said rough sleeping is not a lifestyle choice and blamed increased homelessness on 13 years of Conservative government and austerity. Homeless charity Shelter was also critical of Braverman. Let's make it clear, living on the streets is not a lifestyle choice, it's a sign of failed government policy. The government's new legislative programme will be outlined in the King's speech tomorrow. Israeli forces severed northern Gaza from the rest of the besieged territory and pounded it with intense airstrikes overnight into this morning, setting the stage for an unexpected push into the dense confines of Gaza City and an even bloodier phase of the month-old war. Already, the Palestinian death toll passed 10,000, the health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza said today. The ministry does not distinguish between fighters and civilians. Some 1,400 Israelis have died, mostly civilians killed in the October 7 incursion by Hamas that started the war. The figures mark a grim milestone in what has quickly become the deadliest round of Israeli-Palestinian violence since Israel's establishment 75 years ago, with no end in sight as Israel vows to remove Hamas from power and crush its military capabilities. Some 1.5 million Palestinians, or around 70% of Gaza's population, have fled their homes since the war began. Food, medicine, fuel and water are running low, and UN-run schools turned shelters are beyond capacity. Many people are sleeping on the streets outside. Israel has so far rejected US suggestions for a pause in fighting to facilitate humanitarian aid deliveries and the release of some of the estimated 240 hostages seized by Hamas in its raid. Israel has also dismissed calls for a broader ceasefire from increasingly alarmed Arab countries, including Jordan and Egypt, which made peace with it decades ago. After days of intense diplomacy around the Middle East, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrapped up his tour of the region today, saying efforts to secure a humanitarian pause, negotiate the release of hostages, and plan for a post-Hamas Gaza were still a work in progress. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily. A crazy schedule can make it easy to fall back into your dinner time recipe rut. Keep mealtime exciting with over 40 recipes to choose from every week, so there's always something delicious to discover with HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. With so many in-season ingredients, you'll taste all the freshness of fall in every bite of HelloFresh's chef-crafted recipes. Produce travels from the farm to your door for peak ripeness you can taste. We all know HelloFresh takes the hassle out of mealtime, but did you know it can also save you money? HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout. That means less stress in your day and more money back in your pocket. HelloFresh makes cooking so easy and fast. It's something that I really need in my life and really look forward to. Go to hellofresh.com/55minute and use code 55minute for 50% off plus free shipping. That's hellofresh.com/55minute and use code 55minute for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.